I want to turn our attention back to something we were talking about just a little bit ago, showing you also some of those remarks. As we had said, Brittany Griner's 9-year prison sentence, well, it was upheld in a Russian court here in Elgin. Griner was arrested back in February, and since that time, we've been continuing to follow the very latest with her, especially as the Biden administration has been trying to work to get Griner back home. We're going to be now turning our attention to one of our very own guests on Live Now from Fox, Aaron Solomon, joining us here with Esquire Digital. And Aaron, we've been talking quite a bit ever since Griner's been making all of these appearances inside of the courtroom. Anything to take note of that happened here today? As again, nothing much changed for Griner as she remains locked up inside of that Russian prison.
Exactly. Thanks for having me back, Christy. You know, none of this is really unpredictable at all. As we've said from the beginning, both Russia and the United States have to have an equal resolve and also have to be realistic about what or whom Brittany Griner can and should be traded for in order to effectuate her release. What we saw today was another sham hearing in Russia, in which the end result is that Brittany Griner is going to be sent to a penal colony and her conviction has been upheld. Somebody asked me recently, does Russia work like it does in the United States? Whereas if you have a 10-year sentence, maybe you only go to prison for 3 years or so, and it does not. So for the time being, Brittany Griner is in Russian custody and will remain in Russian prison and perhaps a penal colony. The issue that we have to decide over the next few weeks is what's going to happen to get Brittany Griner to come home, hopefully by Christmas.
Well, and that's a good point, too, because I know when we were speaking before, I'm sure the Biden administration really wanting a big win ahead of these midterm elections. So this is probably something that they're scrambling to try to get done. Brittany Griner obviously has had a lot of support here in the United States to try to bring her back home. What do you think President Biden and others are doing to try to work to make that happen?
Well, what Russia did today was turn the volume up to 11. And what that really does is put more pressure than ever on President Biden and the administration, as you just said, before midterm elections. But on the other hand, you know, I don't think it's fair for us to assume that the Biden administration isn't doing what they can do. As we've said all along, this has to be both sides agreeing, and I hate to do this in sports terms, on fair trade value for the people involved. And it's very clear that if Brittany Griner hasn't come home yet, that Russia holds her trade value higher than the United States is either willing or able to make a deal for at the moment. And that's why we're kind of still in the stalemate.
So you're thinking also, you know, Russia really the one who has the leg up over the United States in this case?
Russia has all of the leverage right now, and they are intensifying that leverage, knowing that President Biden would like nothing more than a big win before the midterm elections. Can you imagine what it would be like the day before midterms to have Brittany Griner landing on a plane in Washington, D.C. or in Phoenix? That would be a great win for the Biden administration. So I've got to believe that they're pushing as hard as they can to make that happen. But again, Russia has all of the leverage here, and they showed that today with the proclamation out of Moscow.
And we've been talking about how she just celebrated her birthday locked up inside of a prison cell. How do you think her mental health has been doing since she has been in their custody since February?
All of the reports that we've seen coming out of the former Soviet Union are that she really can't take much more of this. Again, she's not someone who's unfamiliar with Russia and Russian life. She is unfamiliar with being a political prisoner in Russia. And I'm sure that that weighs upon her, not just by the week or the day, but by the hour.
We know too that, you know, obviously the attorneys that are representing her are in a very tough spot because we've spoken about this before. The Russian court system works a bit differently than it does here, and it's not so much as a fair trial as hey, let's just pretend we had this hearing and it's still going to be decided that we're going to keep her until the United States plays a bit more ball with us.
Our viewers should understand that anything that you see legally come out of Russia regarding Brittany Griner is just a scam, and it's a sham. It's both. So don't pay any attention to any of the legal proceedings that are going on. This has been for months now a political operation in which the United States is trying to free a political prisoner. I can tell you that any kind of hearing for Brittany Griner's eventual release is going to go against her. There's absolutely no doubt. That's a 100% certainty that's going to happen. So we should focus on diplomacy rather than the law.
So what's to come for Brittany Griner, especially as, again, she had this hearing here today, it not going in her favor, as we said it was expected. But what can we expect to see next in these steps to try to get Brittany Griner back home?
I believe that there will be official Russian news agency releases about how much harder her life is going to be if she's shifted to a penal colony or some other kind of labor camp. And again, that's going to further intensify the pressure on the United States to have her home. It's very difficult for us to realize that she is at this point just a political pawn, especially when the quality of her life is going to go from bad to worse.
Anything else you think, Aaron, important to mention to the viewers as we're trying to wrap our heads around what's been happening inside of that Russian courtroom, and also as we continue to pour out our support to Brittany Griner and her friends and family?
I would say for everybody, keep watching this very closely over the next couple of weeks, because this really is a very opportune moment to try to get her home before midterms. And I think if that doesn't happen, then we won't see her home this year.
That's going to be so unfortunate, especially for her loved ones who just want her back and to be able to embrace her through this tough time. Aaron Solomon, we thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox, helping explain a bit more to what was happening inside of those Russian courtrooms. And we appreciate your time here today.
Thank you.